Hello everybody, I am the Netflix Kid and this is my third episode of Best Movies on Netflix. If you're like me, then you watch a lot of movies on Netflix, and I mean a lot. So after watching all these movies, I put 10 of them together that I think you just have to watch. So let's get started. The first movie on my list is one that was actually just added to Netflix only a couple days ago. Jake Gyllenhaal plays his usual role of a somewhat antisocial, eccentric guy named Lou. Lou is this driven individual who's looking for any sort of way he can make an extra buck. He eventually picks up a video camera and begins crawling the streets of LA filming disturbing car crashes, fires, crimes, basically anything he can get his hands on to sell to the local news station. He eventually starts getting involved with some really shady stuff just to make a buck. I really recommend this movie to anyone. It was honestly one of my favorites. Let's move on to number 2. If you aren't a huge anime fan, then don't let this next one throw you off. Actually, I encourage you to go and read up on this next movie on Rotten Tomatoes. It was also just recently featured on the front page of Reddit with a ton of upvotes. Ghost in the Shell is an animated movie with exceptional artwork for being released in 1995. It follows a cyborg cop hunting an elusive hacker called the Puppet Master. This movie is one where you really need to sit down and pay attention to the story in order to understand what's happening. Personally, I can't praise this one enough. Go and check it out ASAP. The third movie on my list I recently rewatched because I had that post-apocalyptic movie itch. The Book of Eli features Denzel Washington, who plays Eli, venturing across the wasteland that is now Earth, carrying mankind's salvation with him. There's one other person on the planet who realizes the power of the object that Eli is carrying and stops at nothing to take it from Eli. If you're looking for a gritty movie with some serious action scenes that include limbs being lobbed off by Denzel Washington, then go watch The Book of Eli. Let's move on to number 4. Are you talking to me? This movie is such a classic, there isn't really much I can say about it to hype it up. You know Taxi Driver is a good movie when it gets a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, is in the IMDb Top 250, and is also directed by Martin Scorsese. Taxi Driver was filmed in the late 70s, and the young Robert De Niro plays a Vietnam War veteran who becomes fed up with the sleazy people in New York. The utter aloneness that De Niro feels in this movie will have you connecting with it on many levels to really understand what makes this movie one of the greats. Let's move on to number 5. Now, I'm sure many of you have already seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's definitely worth an honorable mention if you haven't already seen it or didn't realize it was available to stream on Netflix. I actually went out and purchased the soundtrack to this movie on iTunes. That's how great it is. If you're looking to get your superhero fix and want to listen to an awesome soundtrack while doing it, then go check out Guardians of the Galaxy. Plus, Chris Pratt is pretty awesome. Let's move on to the next one. Number 6 on my list, Looper, is a movie where time travel is available, but only to those with the means to pay for it via the black market. So basically in this movie, mob bosses will send victims who they want to be killed to the past, where hitmen called loopers await them. Now these loopers live a luxurious life, have more money than most, but there's a catch. Eventually the boss decides to eliminate that looper, which they call closing the loop. When a loop is closed, the hitman will travel back in time, but he has to kill himself, which is exactly what happens to Bruce Willis. Now I don't want to say much else because I'll probably spoil this movie for you, so let's just move on to number 7. Typically I like to add a documentary in my episodes, which are usually movies, but this time I decided to mention Cosmos. This TV series is an adaptation of the book written by the brilliant Carl Sagan and narrated by astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. The show goes over how the universe was formed and some of the brilliant minds who helped mankind uncover some of the greatest scientific mysteries. It's an amazing show and I highly recommend it to everyone. Excuse me sir, do you know how fast you were going? If you haven't seen Supertroopers yet, then you seriously need to reevaluate your life. But seriously, even if you have seen Supertroopers, it is still worth rewatching, especially with the reboot just reaching their funding goal. If you're looking for a hilarious comedy to go with, add Supertroopers to your list. Let's move on to the next one. Next on my list is a movie called Up in the Air. George Clooney plays a character named Bingham. Now Bingham gets hired by companies across the globe because they don't have the courage to fire their employees, which is exactly what Bingham specializes in. He basically lives his life out of a suitcase and is constantly traveling. He eventually comes to the realization that the lifestyle he is living has set him up to be pretty alone. During his travels, he finally meets a girl played by Vera Farmiga who has the same sort of lifestyle as him. They hit it off, and I won't spoil any more for you, but if you're wanting to watch a really great romantic comedy, then add this one to your must-watch list. The last movie on my list is one of my personal favorites. The Prestige follows Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, who are both magicians, which started as partners. After the tragic death of Hugh Jackman's wife in the movie, he is convinced that Bale was the culprit and they begin competing to see who the superior magician is. This movie has some serious plot twists, and it will leave you shocked at the end, I guarantee it. Plus, Michael Caine plays a pretty big role in this film, and who doesn't love Michael Caine? Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry I was a little late with this one. I've been pretty busy this summer. If you guys have any recommendations for the next episode, please just leave me a comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if you would do so. If you're not sure how to switch your region on Netflix to find some of these movies, please check out this video, which I'm going to leave in an annotation here. It's really easy to use. So thanks for watching, everybody, and take care.